I'm Anne Powell. I'm a rheumatologist and general physician at the Alfred Hospital, also working for Monash University. I gave a talk today on the gap between the clinicians and the academics. It's something that's quite personal to me because I was initially a clinician educator and more recently have moved into the academic field as well. And I've noticed a sort of big gap between the two and issues with communication. So my talk today focused on what was the gap, why the gap actually mattered, and at the end of the day it's all about patient care and getting things moving. And then we heard some really good interactions from the audience on where their gaps were and some of their ideas on how to bridge the gap. And at the end we really just talked about how it needs to be the grassroots, us from the bottom, rather than the CEOs and Vice Chancellors and Health Ministers fixing the problem at the end of the day.
I'm Szabo. I'm an obstetrician gynaecologist and medical educator at the University of Melbourne and the Royal Women's Hospital in Melbourne. My talk today at ANZAHPE was about dangerous ideas in medical education and specifically disruptive communities of practice. So talking about my experience of Twitter as a disruptive community of practice and what that has done for me in terms of my academic life, learning, teaching, health advocacy, interacting with people, connections, and a whole raft of other things. I think there is significant potential to unlock from Twitter, but I do think that it isn't for everybody, and I don't want to push something on everybody. I think if you're not comfortable with it, then that is completely fine. But what I would argue is that if you're not there, you are not part of the conversation. And there's a whole lot of things happening that if you're not there, you don't know, and people can then be tone deaf. So a lot of the stuff we're hearing at the moment in terms of burnout and people hating the word resilience, that conversation has been going on Twitter for at least 2 years. The same conversation about why junior medical doctors don't like the word junior and feel that it infantilises them, and that often we talk about them, well, when I grow up. They're adults, they are fully qualified doctors. Talking about them in that capacity, it might come from a place of goodness, and I often joke that I'm also, what am I going to do when I grow up? And I've been a doctor for 20 years and I'm a 43-year-old woman, but if you're not part of that conversation, then you've never heard those things, and that's one of the other values for me.
Hi, I'm Hinrich. I'm the DPE, or Director of Physician Education at Western Health, and my talk was about the enormous pool of undifferentiated, unaccredited junior medical residents who are now being abused and mistreated through being allocated within organisations to wherever and whenever to accommodate gaps in service delivery. I think I proposed that we need a career pathway for career medical officers and to offer them robust structure in terms of a career pathway, access to education and training and educational support. That involves curricula, allocation to rotations and a robust access to general practice, surgery, the medical rotations in order to support and provide consistency within hospital organisations rather than mere gap filling.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Lauren Sanders from the University of Melbourne and St Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne. And yesterday at ANZAHPE we ran a workshop, and my colleagues are trying to distract me whilst I'm doing this, but we will press on. So we ran a workshop on interactive teaching in large group settings. And we shared a bit of our experience, and some of the key things that we came up with in the workshop is it does take planning, but it doesn't need a lot of money. You can use things like Lego, bingo for revision, and simple things like including a narrative can really make a difference.
Hi, my name's Szabo. I'm the Director of the Clinical Skills Centre at the University of Auckland. Today I spoke about sleep quality and breakfast consumption for the medical students at the University of Auckland. We know that sleep quality is impacted by not just what you eat but when you eat. We did a survey with medical students and found out that approximately half of the students skip breakfast regularly, and we also found that medical students have poor quality of sleep. And even though we didn't find significant correlation, we're sort of keen to improve the well-being of medical students. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Christine. This is Anu and Melinda, and we're from Western Sydney University here at ANZAHPE 2019. We were talking today about medical student perceptions, about what is well-being and what influences it, and we essentially found it's a broad encompassing complex of their personal health, their academic performance, their life circumstances, and we found that it's impacted by high contact hours, their relationships with university staff and clinical staff, and their relationships with their peers. And we asked students what they thought of wellbeing days and found that all of those themes came up quite commonly in it.
And what's a wellbeing day?
A wellbeing day is essentially a day designed for self-care for students to take sort of a single absence day away from their clinical or their university placement to attend to some self-care and help balance their overall mental health a little bit better. It activates a support pathway if they take a concerning number or a pattern that indicates they might need a little bit of help.
So Adelaide from Adelaide Uni here. I think the best thing I've been to on day one is a presentation about fitness to practice. It was a symposium session, so an hour and a half, talking about how people are integrating fitness to practice into their curriculum, mainly presented by the team from Monash, who have a really interesting model, including an online module at the end of which students can self-select whether or not they want to pursue having help with areas they perceive they might have issues with future practice, particularly correlations between organisational skills, time management, and the run-on effects to clinical practice if you haven't learnt those skills early. So they presented some interesting data about that. They've embedded the mental health first aid course into their program for educators as well as for students, and they're running a Teach the Teacher session for 90 minutes around how to manage students with professionalism issues, from minor time management, organisational stuff, to major professional misconduct, and the various pathways that can be navigated there. So I thought that's something we should rethink, how we're kind of doing that and how we're integrating it across our program.
So one of the things that I found that was very enjoyable about today was I'm made to sort of a stream of academic misconduct, students under stress. So student wellbeing was really the focus of the sessions that I followed today. And it's come away, I've come away with thinking that there are a lot of universities, med schools and other health professions that have set up really great ideas of what they can do to help. People are enacting, but also people are spending time not only looking at the problem, but looking at what's causing the problem. So we're having a bigger discussion of the bigger picture, the structural issues, the university issues, what the universities are doing that are making it a hard environment for students and for academics. So I think there's a sense that we're not alone, and that there's work in this area, and there's lots of good ideas out there. So it's been a good day. Thanks.